Let's talk about Barbarian. Woof. This movie is a ordeal.
It's a wild ass ride from start to finish.
I don't think I've ever been so exhausted emotionally by the movie than I have with this.
It really takes you in a lot of different directions, and the fact that you're constantly like, "I'm what? What?" And yet you feel all the range of emotions. It's just a spectacle.
It really is. And this movie like is riding the line so much. Like the whole movie you are wondering, are they going to land this? Like this is
It's
really
a
doing
lot.
some weird things.
There's a
The-
lot of different directions that, like, have to tie or a lot of different threads that have to tie together by the end that you're like, I'm just not sure if
and
they're gonna
then
be able to land this plane."
they totally land it. Like
It's incredible, yeah.
it's wild. So yeah, we're talking about Barbarian today. 2022 movie. Came out like what 2 month 3 months ago.
Yeah, the honestly, I think it just came out in I can look it up because I have it right here. September 9th. So it only came out like almost 2 months ago.
Okay. Wow, that's quick to streaming. Love it.
45 days now, and I love it because I feel like a lot of people, I've been waiting for a lot of people to see this movie because everyone was like, go see it. Don't look up spoilers. And I'm the spoiler queen. So I had to see it really quick in theaters, which took a lot of convincing on my part to get my boyfriend to go with me because when we saw the trailer for Barbarian, when we went and saw Nope, we almost had to leave Nope because he was like, I think I'm having a heart attack. Because it was like jump scare after jump scare after jump scare in the trailer, which is one of those, totally misleading trailers. And I had to really drive the point home that that's how they market scary movies nowadays.
hmm
And all I've heard is that it's a total misdirection. So I can't believe he went and saw it in theaters, but I'm so glad it's having a second wave and everyone's watching it now because it's streaming on HBO Max.
Yeah, I have been waiting for this movie to come to streaming because yeah, like I heard all the same stuff and like everyone that I heard, they're like, this movie's incredible. Don't listen to my review of it because I'm gonna spoil something, but just know it's incredible. You should go watch it. So I've been waiting for this. And then also like when I learned that the director is Zach Krager, who's from Whitest Kids You Know, I'm just like,
Yep.
what what is this gonna turn out like?
Yeah. Even more interest, honestly, because I mean, I hadn't thought about them for a minute, but I'll be damned if I don't still quote "Whitest Kids You Know" all the time.
Oh
They're
yeah.
incredible. They're so fucking funny, and this made me go back and watch a bunch of their skits, and they're so good. And I would say he has lost absolutely none of his comedy skills. If anything, he's really improved everything.
What's your favorite Whitest Kids You Know skit?
I think all time is always going to be Abraham Lincoln and how he really was killed.
Turn around and say it again. Turn around and say it again. Turn around, say it
Will
again.
you please be quiet? John, that is the President of the United States.
I don't care who it is, he's ruining Hamlet.
Listen to the woman, John. Just
Calm
calm down.
down.
Just calm down. Calm down.
I could go on and quote everything in that fucking skit. It is so goddamn funny. So I mean, I just feel like I say that shit all the time. And
All the time.
that one, but also I was reminded my boyfriend was like, "What about the grapist?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, the grapist."
Open wide, kids, because I'm going to grape you in the mouth. He's going to what them in the mouth?
He's gonna grape him.
He's going to grape them.
Yeah, in the mouth.
Sarah loves the grapist.
Because it's just so fucking funny. I mean, everything. He's like, "Really, the grapist? That's the name you're going with?"
Why was he going to tie them to a radiator?
That's how he grapes people. That's what he does.
No!
He's the grapist.
The grapist? That's his name?
The Grapist, classic.
This is obviously a rape scenario.
Zach Krieger is like the main guy who's like questioning the grapist concept in that sketch. So it's good stuff.
When I heard all of the craziness about Barbarian and then learned that it was written and directed by the Whitest Kids You Know guy, I'm like, what is going to happen in this movie? Oh my god.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I was a little I was like, okay, I'm excited, but I was a little concerned because Jordan Peele is another guy who was like all
Yeah.
comedy, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm also a fucking genius with horror too." It's like, so I was like, I'm excited, but I was also like, "Ugh, I don't want to set the unrealistic Jordan Peele expectation, but Zach Kreger really, really lived up to it. And also, Jordan Peele was like a ghost helper on this movie. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't.
They're friends, and he was involved in some of the story process, and then also got to help him with an early cut of the film.
Oh, that's great. I hope this doesn't start a wave of comedians thinking that they can write horror.
I would say horror, if they're writing comedy, they honestly will have a better time of it than like somebody else from like a drama. I feel like going in surprisingly, but also they shouldn't all do it. You're right.
I mean, I'm kind of curious now to see a Ben Stiller horror because I think Ben Stiller wrote that Apple TV show Severance,
Hmm.
which is not a comedy.
Yeah. Well, he
Yeah.
actually has a interesting that you mention it. He optioned a Stephen King story called Rat. It's definitely horror, and Ben Stiller got the rights. He's writing, directing, and starring in it. I don't know when. I think he should be either starting production on it soon, or maybe it's one of those things that won't ever happen. But I think that would be a perfect like little stepstone for him to jump into horror. I'm here for it.
So I just looked this up and he's already actually kind of put his toe in there. You remember the movie Cable Guy?
Oh yeah,
I totally forgot that Ben Stiller directed that movie, and it's definitely
yeah.
more of a comedy than a horror, but, like,
There's got some horror
it
elements.
has the beats, but, like, it's Jim Carrey, so, like, he can only be so scary, but, like, there's parts.
Yeah, Jim Carrey can also like he could fucking do it in a horror movie as we've seen.
Yeah.
I think again, not every single person should do it, but I do think that there is a lot of similarities between comedy and horror. And also, if they don't go into the full horror of it, they can do some really excellent horror comedies, I think, which I'm always all about. Those are some of my favorite movies.
Just we've had Jordan Peele and then Zach Kreger, and so far, 2, like, all-stars, and I'm just worried about the drop off we get of just like, "Oh, 2 for 2." It's just gonna keep going, but
And then Dane Cook announces he's doing a horror
ugh,
movie, and we're like, I don't know about that.
it's ruined.
Not gonna lie, I mean, I don't know how we feel about Dane Cook nowadays, but I still love him and will forever, like, be able to quote the Nothing Fight by heart because I mean, I was just, I guess, that age when he came out
Uh,
on YouTube,
Good times with Dame Cook back in junior high.
but we don't need you in the horror genre,
Yeah.
dude. You have fun on
Yeah.
your own.
I mean, I'm more worried about, like, the Kevin Hart horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to scare the shit out of that little guy, though.
It'd be a good creature feature where The Rock is the creature just chasing him. I would watch that. I love those
Yeah.
guys. Anyways,
Yeah, let's actually, like, intro Barbarian, right? We haven't even talked about it.
so yeah, Barbarian came out this year, directed and written by Zach Kreger. The budget for this movie was about $4.5 million. So pretty 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 small budget. It did over 40 million in the box office. So that's shocking to me just with how weird this movie is. Like how much of a hit it became. Like
It's one of those, like, word of mouth things where if people are
mhm.
talking about your movie, then, like, you're gonna do well, but I think we've just seen horror movie after horror movie just kill it at the box office, and that's something that Zach Kreger has said before is, like, I know it's a big risk for a story, but, like, I think this is something he, like, when he pitched it to Georgina Campbell, who plays Tess, the main character, he was like, "I know it's a huge rich risk of a story, and it's crazy, but, like, horror is the genre where you take a big risk and you will be very well rewarded because there's not a lot of great horror movies that come out all the time. And when the good one comes out, people fucking go see it.
Mhm.
So, and he was right.
Definitely. And people will rewatch horror movies for the rest of their lives.
I've rewatched Barbarian like 5 times since it came out on HBO like a couple days ago. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that statement.
So the IMDb plot of this movie is a woman staying at an Airbnb discovers that the house she has rented is not what it seems.
like the most basic log line for this movie and the best way to describe it to people because it gives away absolutely nothing.
Yeah. That's like a third of the movie.
That's like the first 40 minutes
Yeah, like
of that. That's it.
like there is so much that happens beyond that. It's just insane.
Yeah, but again, we will keep that for the spoiler discussion, which is gonna be coming up here pretty soon,
Yeah.
but for now, just know that that is the general log line of the movie. I think it's all just one of those things. You just need to be surprised by this movie. It will work best. Like, not to hype it up overly, way too much, but I mean, I think just going in and like with knowing that log line of it's a woman at an Airbnb that's sketch. That's all you need to know to go into it.
I'll hype the fuck out of this movie. It's the greatest movie ever made.
Well, I've heard people say that because people hyped it up so much about don't look at anything up before you see the movie, they thought it would be even wilder than it is. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I mean, I don't know what you were guys were expecting, but I thought it was pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, while we're still in non-spoiler territory, one of the things that I really loved about this movie is there's been a lot of stuff lately with horror movies that has like really big ideas and people, you could call it the elevated horror, which is just a stupid name.
Mhm.
But it's like these really big ideas, complex things that they tie into the movie, like emotional stories that are kind of in parallel with this horror story
A
kind of thing.
message or some of some sort.
And this movie, there are some deep things in it, but the thing that really it reminded me of is like a movie doesn't have to have a lot of complexity to be just a really great time.
Mhm. Simplicity.
This movie does some super weird things and it's just a ride. And if you go on it, you're just going to have fun. And those movies are great. You can just have fun with movies. Movies can be these big things and like you can just have a great time and walk out and be like, what happened? Oh my God.
Sometimes it's good to be wild, but it's wild in a way that's not overly complicated. It's got
Hmm.
the basic through line of the woman at the Airbnb that's not what it seems. That is basically the through line of the movie. However, there's some wild turns in there, but it keeps it fairly simple, straightforward. I mean, there's other little we'll talk about the other kind of big swings, but in general, it's a pretty basic plot.
And I would say that as crazy as this movie is, like I wouldn't say that there's plot holes. Like I would say that there is a story that it tells and the
Yeah.
story makes sense. You don't learn everything up front and it doesn't explain everything that happens as it happens. So like you watch the whole movie and by the end of the movie, all of these pieces connect and you're like, "Whoa."
Mhm. It's weird how it all connects at the end. You'll be shocked, and it is, like, a little bit jarring at times, the
Mhm.
transitions between different tones or, like, seemingly unrelated sequences of events, but it all comes together perfectly, and I personally enjoyed every single one of the separate bits, like,
Yeah.
on their own, as well as, like, when it all came together.
Yeah. And the last thing I guess I want to say before we jump into spoilers is this is a movie that we also, especially in the horror fandom, this movie is very, very important because this movie almost didn't get made because it's a Fox movie and it was already in production when Disney acquired Fox. And 100% Disney would have scrapped this movie.
Yes.
They're like, we want nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it is still shocking that it got made because it just does like you said, it's not the movie that you go to, like, Disney with or, like, fucking, any of the big studios, like, the studio that really got the thing started was Boulder Light Pictures, and it's like, I've never heard of them, but I love it. It's like Zach Kreger was saying, he sent this to a bunch of people. He sent it to bigger places, and they were like, "We like it," but they wanted him to change all the things that he thought made it special, which
Mhm.
I don't think he's ever specified, but I'm like, I can imagine it's some of the wilder shit that happens in this movie. They're like, I don't know about that, but they really it all worked out in the end. I'm so glad.
All right. So this is your spoiler alert.
Back out.
Back out, go watch a movie, or if you're one of those people that just needs to know what happens before you go into a movie, then you're welcome to be spoiled. We're gonna have a great time talking about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
So the way that we're gonna do this movie is broken up. It's broken up jarringly into 4 different parts, and we're just gonna kind of go through each of the parts.
Yes.
So part 1, I guess we should call this the Airbnb part.
The Airbnb part, yeah, Tess and Keith, basically. I like to think of it just because it is like a little mini like character story. And but yes, it is like the basically the frame story of she shows up at an Airbnb and a guy is already staying there and it's the middle of the night and
Yeah,
he is Bill Skarsgård and it's been double booked supposedly.
this I think this part is my favorite part of the whole movie. Like,
Hmm.
I just love everything about this movie. Like, she comes up, there's no key in the box, that yeah, somebody else is in there. He opens the door, and it's Bill Skarsgård, so we all know him from Pennywise. So we are just already creeped out and kind of turned on.
He's sexy but scary. Then
Yeah,
they know that like you know him as Pennywise, so you're gonna be sus
yeah.
as you should. But
Oh,
what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I forgot to tell you my summary of this movie, and
Oh
this is
yeah,
this is kind of my overarching. This just reminded me. This is kind of my overarching thought of
which is good for the spoiler part. I figured
yeah.
that we might want to save that.
So this whole movie, after watching it, I forget what show it's from, but it reminds me of that thing where they're like, they don't know that I know that they know that I know.
Friends.
But see, they don't know that we know that they know.
This whole movie is just like Zach Krager preying on our expectations and tropes. Like, we think we know what's going to happen, and like the whole movie he's just playing with you. It kind of reminds me in a sense of Hereditary. Like, you and I talked about Hereditary. That movie just kind of like, it seems like he knows what people are going to expect, and he just draws things out longer than like it usually would, and so then you're just really sucked in and engaged and tense about it.
Mm-hmm. Lots of intensity,
Yeah.
especially in this first opening. But I did want to mention that I also think this is like the best of like the segments personally. Although I will say that like the Justin Long one is up there, but I think that this is great because this is actually where the movie started. Was this 30-minute story that he crafted. And he used it as a writing exercise after reading this book called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker.
Hmm.
And it encourages women to trust their intuition when confronted by obviously dangerous men. And I thought it was super cool because he used it as a writing exercise and crafted this like 30-minute short story where it's just a conversation in which a woman continues to ignore the mounting series of red flags that is appearing in front of her. But he ended up liking it enough to like create like a broader story to work the like a concept in with the characters.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was just really cool that he like started off with just that because it is like the thing that really pulls you into the movie, right? It's
It
like
really does.
and it is like the thing that plays like that's the whole part about it is that it really plays with like your expectations of like movies for sure and horror movies especially, but also as a woman, all the red flags that like it's just funny because men think about things totally differently and like her and Bill Skarsgård, so basically Tess and Keith, they talk about this like during their conversation
Mhm.
about how different it is as a man and a woman to be in the situation. Like, yeah, if she's the one who's already in the house and he shows up, there's no fucking way he's coming inside.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude, you gotta go. You're sleeping in your car, or you getting
Yeah.
the fuck out of here. Because that was like, I'd be terrified. He
Yeah.
could have faked all this shit. And again, she does make smart moves by asking him to like show him her reservation. She takes a picture of his ID.
Would you mind pulling up your reservation confirmation just so I can see it?
In case I'm some kind of weirdo who's broken in here to sleep? Yeah. No, it's fine. No, let me just find my phone.
All the little things. She doesn't drink the tea that he makes. He makes tea and then he like is like, oh, I have red wine and he's you see like he's just trying to be nice and make her feel comfortable, but it's making her more uncomfortable.
We are assuming that we're like, "You're the bad guy."
Yeah, because by casting Bill Skarsgård, it automatically puts us in her place as like as a woman, you're naturally going to be sus no matter if he looks like
Yeah.
fucking Alexander Skarsgård or Bill Skarsgård. However, because it would just be a perfect situation for a man to set up for himself, and I mean, it would happen. I'm sure it fucking has happened.
Well, and then it happens later in the
Yeah.
3rd part.
Mhm. We'll get there.
So, yeah. So, anyway, sorry, jumping ahead,
Yeah,
too
don't jump
excited.
ahead yet, but the fact that they cast him is just like you're automatically in her shoes saying, "This guy is sus." I mean, he's being super nice, but he also just has that creepy, like he's also saying, like, a creepy guy would say the same things or try to do the same things. It's just hard to differentiate because guys are uncomfortable now, they don't wanna make you feel uncomfortable, and there are nice guys that, like, are trying to do the right thing, but they might come across as wrong because they're, like, over explaining themselves, how he's like,
I thought I'm gonna have some of this here wine, but I didn't want to open it before you got out of the shower because I noticed you didn't drink your tea. And well, I totally get that, by the way. I mean, you don't know me, and this is a fucking really weird situation. It makes total sense. But I thought that, you might want some of this, but if I open it while you weren't here, fuck, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Jesus Christ. Um, I thought you wouldn't want any if you didn't see me open it, so I waited.
you have to be super suspicious of him until he does end up pulling down her guard a bit, but you're right that, like, it knows it's all playing on your expectations of the situation.
And that was so then, yeah, the wine scene
Mhm.
is where it changes, and I also love this first part so much because, like, the movie just becomes a different tone, like,
Yes.
every every 10 minutes, like, they have the whole tense wine scene, and then they sit down, and then she tells him what or she does, and, like, she's here to do, like, an indie documentary thing. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I saw that, love that." And she's like, "You didn't see it." And then he starts, like, naming off the parts, like, "Yes, I love that stuff." And then they actually start bonding,
And it's
and
like,
then,
"Oh,
like
this weird obscure thing that you're, like, here to, like, help a documentarian do, like, I you should interview me because that's what I do. That's why I'm here." And it's like it's almost a little too perfect, but you're also like, "I'm with her now." Like, "Okay, he seems cute, and he seems like maybe the perfect man for her, honestly." Like, you want them to be together.
yeah, then the next 10 minutes become, like, a really good, like, romance. Like,
Mhm.
they're, like, talking, they're laughing, having a good time, they're talking about each other. The duvet scene.
So cute.
And you kind of give me the two edges where my edges are.
Yeah, sure.
Where they two meet. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You got it.
To back up, because now.
Gets a little bit, a little aggressive.
With the thing, but that is how you get the duvet.
Oh, so graceful.
That's how you do it.
Are you usually this out of breath afterwards?
That's a good idea, I'm gonna have to try that.
I know. And it's just a good it's also a little detail that, like, the reason that there is a duvet cover scene where he's showing her how to put it on and he's, like, inside the duvet, it's adorable. But the reason that there is that scene is because when he's like, "I'll sleep on the couch, you can sleep in the room, you can lock yourself in there, whatever." And she's like, "Well, I have a thing about clean sheets." So that's why they stay up and, like, talk and have wine is because
Mhm.
like, they have to wash all the fucking sheets. And so I love that, like, by this point, she's super comfortable with him, and he's, like, literally inside of her blanket and, like, all of that, and she's, like, laughing and totally comfortable with it. She's
Yeah,
not worried about him, like, and his germs anymore. It's just another little detail as she's, like, warming up to him.
and they had great chemistry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Bill Skarsgård took this role purely because he's like, "Great, I don't have to be the bad guy. Yeah, I get to be charming."
What's funny is that, I actually Zach Kreger mentioned that Bill Skarsgård doesn't like horror movies, which I found shocking because that's what that guy is like, that's what he's in. Like, everything I've seen him in is like a fucking horror movie,
Yeah.
basically. So, the fact was that his wife, he was, when he was reading through the script, he was telling his wife what it was about, and she kept like, every couple of pages, she'd be like, "Okay, what's happening now? What's happening now? Oh my god, wait, what?" And then, like, she was so interested that Zach Kreger's like, thanks to Bill's wife. I mean, I think that she's the reason that he was like, "Wow, this is a good script. This is a good story." Like, she's so intrigued. She wants to know what's happening. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll fucking do it." And I'm sure he also loved, I don't have to play the bad guy. 'Cause I
Yeah.
mean, give that guy a break. He should be in a romantic comedy after this, I think.
Yeah, he was great, and he was yeah, I really enjoyed him, which made it really effective when he dies
Out of nowhere.
out of nowhere.
We gotta talk about this whole sequence leading up to like the underground.
You're right. We need to talk through this whole sequence. So then they wake. So then this is the part that the next tonal shift that I really like.
Yes.
So we started with uncomfortable, like this guy's a creeper, gonna kill me kind of vibe, romance. Then in the middle of the night, she wakes up, and now we're kind of in this like haunted house kind of vibe
Yes. Mm-hmm.
where she locks the door when she sleeps, but then she wakes up and her door's open. And then she also hears Bill having like nightmares.
He's like making noises and shit on the couch. It's very unsettling.
Yeah, so like total haunted house vibes. She wakes him up, he screams, he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And like, yeah, all stuff. So then she wakes up in the morning, she goes into Detroit for her work thing, comes back home, goes to the bathroom and needs toilet paper.
But before that,
Did I
you
miss
forgot to
something?
mention the homeless man,
Oh yeah, the vagrant.
the vagrant guy who's chasing her as soon as she gets out of her car.
Yeah.
Can I just say it's horrifying, but also we later learn this guy's trying to help her because he knows what's up with the house. And the fact that I just want to be like, dude, this is not the way to go about it. Like, hey, little girl, like that's not the thing you yell to get a woman or any person to turn around and go, hey. Also, don't scream running and going, get the hell out of there. Like, it's just really sketch.
Hey, little girl!
He's not going about it the right way. I know he's homeless, but come on, man. You could have gone through that a little bit more like casual and not been so like, okay, this guy's going to kill me.
Tone it down, dude.
Yeah. Like, I know you might not interact with much people besides whatever fucks are in this house, which is like some sketchy people, but come on.
Well, and this movie also, it really plays with light a lot in a really great
Mhm.
way. Like when we first see the house, it's totally dark out. And it's like a nice looking house.
Yeah, it looks cute. It's like a totally
Yeah.
normal looking Airbnb.
And so then she gets up in the morning, and when she walks out in the morning, we're in a totally like deserted area.
All the
Like,
houses are like run
yeah,
down. There's nobody living in any of
it's
them.
a
There's no
totally
cars.
deserted, like, yeah, suburb on the outskirts of Detroit. Like,
Sketchy sign number one right there. Get the hell out of here. This is
yeah.
not the area to be in.
So yeah, she's in the outskirts of Detroit, totally abandoned. Vagrant is coming up on her.
Way too hot.
And yeah, tone it down. She gets in the house and yeah, has to go to the bathroom, no toilet paper. So then she goes into the basement.
To get toilet paper, not because she's a moron.
Oh, I thought she was just going to go pee in a bucket or something, but
No, there's no toilet paper, like perfectly, of course, in the bathroom.
yeah.
So
So yeah, we're now in this like haunted house kind of vibe because she's down in the basement. And of course, basements are where all the bad stuff happens.
always, fucking hate a basement.
uh, the hallway down to the basement looked exactly like The Conjuring.
Totally.
So yeah, she's down in the basement. There's all this weird stuff, and then she finds this rope. She's like, "What the fuck is this?" And she
Never a good
pulls
sign.
the rope. Secret door opens into a hallway, and then we get a nope moment.
Yes, I was like, you could end the movie right there if she's like, nope, and goes back and like sits on the stairs because the problem is she gets locked down there. The
Yeah,
door,
the haunted house door
yeah,
closes.
keeps swinging shut at the wrong fucking moments, and so she gets locked down there and then realizes that the hideaway key is in her pocket because
Yeah,
she was supposed to leave it out for Bill Skarsgård, but the homeless guy naturally scared the shit out of her and she panicked.
yeah. And so then she goes down the hallway, and the Tess is smart. She lays
Mm-hmm.
the mirror down to light up the room
Yes.
or the hallway as much as it can be.
Because it's a sketch looking hallway. I mean, I imagine any secret hallway you find in a basement is going to be scary, but this one is like cave like,
Yeah,
but not fully. It's still like got like a flat ground to walk on, and there's like a
got
light
some
towards the end of
bracing.
it because
Yeah.
there's a room down there.
Well, and that's another thing with light. In the darkness, there's a light, so we're naturally drawn to the light. Every time they find light in the darkness, it's always leading to something bad.
Yeah, there's
It's
never a
like
good,
it's, a,
never a good thing.
it's another play on expectations. It's great.
Yeah, because you always think the light in the dark that's gonna get you out. That's gonna be the safety,
Mhm.
but oh boy, do they fuck with you on that.
So yeah, then she goes down the hallway, and in that room, it's a real like Saw looking scenario. It's just a bed, bucket, camera.
A blood-soaked mattress with no fucking sheets and a camera and a bucket and a bloody handprint on the wall. And naturally, She's fucking terrified.
So she freaks out. There's one little window and she starts banging on. She sees Bill Skarsgård
Yeah, she's at this point exited the sketchy room, exited the weird hallway, and
back in
she
the
is
basement.
yeah, Bill Skarsgård is, like, laughing when he sees her, and he's like, "What are you doing down there?" And she's like, "Get me the
You,
fuck out of here."
you big goof.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, why are you in the basement?" Then he gets her
Yeah.
out, and she's like, "We need to fucking get out of here now." And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, like, calm down, like, what the fuck?" Like, every fucking man I've ever met. And he's like, "You need to just tell me what's going on. You're acting insane," which don't ever fucking say that, a nice guy or not. And then she's like, "There's a room with a bed and a bucket." I don't know if she says blood, but I think she says
You should,
bloody handprint.
yeah, bloody handprint. I took a note when I was watching it. She mentions the camera, and then he keeps on reiterating like a bucket and a mattress.
So there's a bed and a bucket and a camera? How much you gonna go?
No, please don't. There was like a handprint on the wall.
Tess, calm down. Calm down. You're not making any sense, okay? So there's a room downstairs with a bed and a bucket in it. It's a basement. It's filled with junk.
And he just keeps forgetting that there's a camera in there. And I'm just like, it's kind of an important thing to add to the creepiness, but like, it's just a bucket in a
A
room.
bucket and a bed. I mean, that still doesn't bode well because somebody's either using that to take a shit or to like dump blood into. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no good reason for a bucket and a bed to be in the same room.
Yeah.
And that he just seems to be like, "Oh, it's just a basement. That's where people have weird shit. It's also where people keep their torture dungeons." So, but he's like, "I need to see this," which like
Yeah.
every man in the history of the world, this is your fucking problems with everything. You can never just trust us. It's always you're acting crazy. I need to see what you're talking about because a bed and a bucket, that doesn't sound scary. And I'm like, Bill Skarsgård, you got me on your side. I love him in this movie, but I was like, all right, you're kind of being willingly stupid, but honestly, it tracks with every man I've ever met. So
I was laughing a little bit all through that part because just I love the way that Bill Skarsgård is just talking about the bucket. It's just like he's so casual. He's like, "Yeah, there's a bucket in a bedroom. I have 2 buckets in my bedroom. Like, what's weird? I keep my toothbrush on the floor."
and this
Like,
is again when you're like, he's won me over, but now he's seeming a little weird again
yep,
because of the bucket thing. And he's so like, oh, it's just a bucket. And it's almost like, it's probably because it's your bucket that you want to go down there. And he's
exactly.
like, so I'm like, of course he wants to go down there. But then he's like, oh, you can stay here. Cause she's like, I'm not fucking going down there again. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me? He's like, we'll just stay here and make sure that like I don't get locked in, which we're like, okay, but do you have to go? Do
yeah.
you have to? This is why every white man dies in horror movies first. The husband, the dad, whatever it is. I don't believe you. I gotta wait until I see it with my own goddamn eyes, and by then it's too late.
Mm.
So then he goes down to the basement to look for this bucket in the bed, and she's just sitting in the stairs and props the door open because she's smart.
Yeah, she is super smart.
Yeah,
She's
for a
great.
while.
I'd say she's smart the whole movie. We'll get there. So then she goes down because he's not responding to her.
He stopped responding.
And so I'm going to say this part because I was texting you while I was watching this.
Yes, with just emojis.
Yeah, I committed to Renee. Like, I'm only texting emojis
Yeah.
in response. And Renee knew exactly what part I was at from this. So she goes down the hallway to find him. She looks in the room. He's not in the room. And she's like, where the hell did he go? And then my red flags were like, okay, he's the bad guy again. I was right. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then the wall next to the room, she sees like a little ledge or like a little,
It's like a little doorknob, too.
yeah, kind of thing. She grabs onto it, open, and it's a door to another hallway.
Not even a hallway.
Yeah, stairwell.
In a cave. It's cave stairs. It's not even normal stairs. Okay. This is literally the stairway to hell. This is what it looks like. If you were to be like, you see this, you go, that goes straight to hell. There's no way. It goes really deep and you cannot see the bottom. Like, it's a fucking long ass stairwell. Like, no way am I even looking down there.
We are one plot point away from this being the sequel to The Descent that we never knew was going to happen.
I almost thought that's where it's going because I'm like, that is literally going into the earth. There's no way that you're gonna get me in there. I love Bill Skarsgård. He's sexy as hell, but I'm sorry, dude. If you saw that door and you were like, huh, it goes down to those stairs, I'm gonna go see what the fuck's up. You deserve everything that's coming to you, FYI. But like, it's one thing if you didn't hear him, but he yells help and help me.
Yeah.
So it's like, Okay, she's a good person,
Yeah.
She has to go in.
This part was such a fun part to watch because, like, the secret hallway under the house is one thing, like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that before," like, "Oh, that's pretty weird." But a secret hallway within a secret hallway
That's like a cave.
is like, "Whoa, is this Batman's house? Like, where where are we going? What is happening?"
It almost looks like The Descent, and the further that she goes in there, I mean, she's terrified.
Yeah. It's pitch black.
Yeah, she's got her, like, phone light, but it's like the things that she's seeing, it does not bode well.
Yeah,
The further that she goes in, it's like a weird gate, which just looks like the gateway to hell.
yeah. There's, like, dog cages.
There's a bunch of animal cages with, like, bowls and blood all over them, and it's like, that's upsetting. And then she's like, finally, like, "Keith, where the fuck are you? Like, I cannot go any further in here."
Yeah,
And then he scares the shit out of her, like, crawling towards
yeah.
her. And you're like, "Okay, yeah, he's definitely fucked up. Like, either he's the killer or he's a creature."
Mhm.
Like, I wasn't sure, but his crawling seemed very non-human. I
Yeah.
know he was, like, injured, but he's like,
I think it's his giant eyes.
it's his giant eyes, and they get even bigger because he's terrified in that scene, and he's
Yeah.
like, "There's someone down here. Something bit me." And you're like, "Oh god." And she's trying to get him to come back with her because she's like, "Okay, come with me." So yes, they're arguing about this, and you're like, "Dude, come on, come with her. What are you doing? Why are you being insane?"
And then so that we've gone from creeper movie, romance, haunted house, and then we get the moment where the movie becomes a creature feature.
Yes.
This this thing, giant thing comes out, smashes Bill Skarsgård's head graphically.
Against the wall until he's dead, like a pulp.
I'm just like, "Whoa, what the fuck is going on?"
And it screams, and the thing that comes out is, like, that you see, I mean, you pretty much get a good sense. There's some big hang swinging tits on
Oh
this
yeah.
thing, and it is a giant, like, deformed woman of some
It's
sort.
like a ogre
Yeah.
looking thing.
Like a Descent almost, but, like, huge, like Ogre mixed with the Descent,
The Descent meets Hills Have Eyes kinda shit.
exactly, but, like, also, like, she's got superhuman strength
Yeah.
because, like, the way that she just smashes his head against the wall, my god, and then she screams, so we'll call her Mother for the rest of it because I believe that is her name, the Mother. And so then it just stops and you're like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like, that alone is so jarring, but then we get into segment number 2.
I.e. the church, I.e. the government, I.e. school. But when I got a little older, I learned how to kill 'em myself.
Which
The Ju
is
the Justin
Justin
Long.
Long. Yeah. And for a while you're like, "I'm sorry, am I in the wrong movie theater?"
Yeah.
Like,
It's like this upbeat, happy music.
he's, like, driving, and you find out really quickly that he's an actor and that he gets a call from his agents
He's
and that
getting Me Too'd.
he's getting Me Too'd. He is accused of rape and
Yeah.
by his co-star, and it's not moving forward. There's gonna be a story about it tomorrow. And I will say that the way that Justin Long plays this character is, like, so good.
Yeah, I texted you, I was like, "Is it weird how good Justin Long is at playing a guy who is being accused of rape?" Like,
I'm fired?
I think essentially that's the most likely outcome.
That fucking bitch. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wait a minute, you guys. Wait. This is totally blown out of proportion.
You're usually rooting for him in movies, and so it's weird that he's, like, an asshole because he still is likable in his own way, but he's also, like, from the very beginning, as soon as he's accused of the rape stuff and the way he's acting, like, "What a fucking bitch." And,
yeah.
like, "Of course I didn't do it," and, like, all this shit.
Yeah, and then throughout this whole part, he just is solidifying that he did. Like, that he's an asshole.
It just becomes clear. He clearly did this, and he's like, "I'm gonna destroy her." And then you're like, also, where the fuck is this going? But I'm enjoying it because he's so fucking funny. He's
Yeah.
so good. And this is the piece of trivia I was saving for you.
Okay,
So
hit
when
me.
we got to this part, you're not gonna believe who Zach Krecker originally wrote this part for and offered him the part. Zach
Zach
Efron.
I was
Were you about to
I was
say Zach
about to
fucking
guess
Efron?
Zac Efron.
Oh my god, Jace, how the fuck would you guess that? Just because it's so, like, the opposite of what Justin Long is?
Yeah, I mean, Zac Efron's like a hot Justin Long, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Justin Long is more like he's just a good guy. I'm glad they went with Justin Long because Justin Long is the opposite of Bill Skarsgård. Like, Bill Skarsgård, you have these assumptions that he's gonna be the bad guy. and Justin Long, you have just natural assumptions that he's a good guy.
Yeah,
Like
he's
from
usually like a good guy.
from everything that he's done, whether it's him being the good guy in all the horror movies that he's in,
Jeepers
or
Creepers.
just being the weirdest dude on New Girl. Like he's like
Yes,
my favorite guest star on New Girl.
accepted.
Yeah, he's just great. And for him to be a rapist, essentially,
I mean, 100% he is.
you would never think that. And so like I remember when I first saw the movie and that part happened, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's being set up.
Yeah, exactly, because
You
you
know?
have that question because you love Justin Long.
I have this whole history of Justin Long. I don't really have a history with Zac Efron.
I mean, I didn't like him back in his days of like High School Musical. Then I was like, I've seen some stuff where he can actually act.
Yeah, like I think he's really funny. Like he's
Yeah,
great in Neighbors.
he's very
He's
funny. I
great.
will say he is more of an asshole that like I'd be like, yeah, okay, he is an asshole. However, the fact that he turned this movie down and then said, "No, I'm going to star in that shitty Firestarter Stephen King remake that never needed to be made ever and that was just not good." Like, I mean, I seriously am not sure about his judgment anymore. That just seems like I mean, maybe I get it. The AJ part might be kind of a tough sell, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like Zac Efron has done funny shit like that.
Yeah.
It would maybe just be a little bit too much. It would maybe be more along the lines of like Channing Tatum and This Is the End, where it's
Mhm.
like that's pretty far
Yeah.
from like what we had seen from Channing Tatum so far. So the fact that like with this movie, it felt like it maybe would have been too much for Zac Efron. I still think what an idiot that he
Yeah.
didn't do this.
So yeah, when this scene happens, it's super weird because we just saw this creature smash in Bill Skarsgård's head, and then it jumps to like Malibu, California, and it's just like, the fuck is going on? And then fast forward, everyone is dropping him. Like his accountant is dropping him. The show that he's on, it's a pilot. They are dropping him. So he start liquidating assets because he's got no income coming in. And so then we learned that he's the guy who actually owns the house that was being
Yes.
Airbnb. So he goes back to Detroit to go and look at the house, and he's going to sell it.
Yeah. So that then you're like, okay, now it connects. But
Yeah.
like, I just want to say, I think that he gets like the best lines of the movie. I would say for sure. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
just because like there's certain things like the way that he like as soon as he gets to Detroit, he like goes and meets up with his bro, and like his
Mhm.
bro's like, okay, like I read the article, like but you're my bro, like real talk, real talk. I just want to know what happened.
That was the most broy conversation
The
ever. I'm like,
most broy, yeah.
every drunk guy has had a conversation like that
Yes.
with one of their best friends. It's just like, bro, like real talk. Like
I
like
know. I was like, this just again, it just felt so real.
Can we just like real talk for a moment though? Can we real talk?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Okay, like just what the fuck actually did happen with you guys? No, dude, I'm saying like you're my boy. Obviously, I'm gonna believe whatever you tell me. But
Right.
man to man, like real talk, like what the fuck actually happened?
Dude, I'll be real with you.
That's all I'm asking.
Yo,
That's the only thing
let
I'm
me be
asking.
real with you.
I know every guy says like, real talk, man.
Yeah, real talk, real talk. They always do it. And it just, yeah, it felt very real. And then the shit that he was saying, I'm like, this just confirms that he's a
Oh yeah.
rapist.
She needed some convincing.
She needed some convincing. It's not like I was like, I'm going to rape you, bitch, because we all know that that is like the key to like
Yeah.
raping somebody is you have to say, I'm going to rape you, bitch. That's obviously it. And then he says, me, I'm just a persistent dude. She just
Yeah.
took some convincing. That's all. But she was like totally into it by the end. You're like, okay, so like those aren't obviously like the best lines. I'm not
Yeah.
thinking, but like they felt like very real to his character. I was more thinking like by the time that like his story wraps up and like or like connects back into the main plot is like he gets to the house, he finds Tess and Keith's shit everywhere, and he's like, "What the fuck?" and like calling the company because they can't explain what happens. I still have
Yeah.
questions, but I don't really care. Like it's one of those questions that's unanswered the whole time of like, how the fuck did they get double booked? And the company has no idea that like, I mean, they never checked out, so they just have no record of anything. It's just very bizarre. Um, but I love the fact that like, so then he gets back, he finds the basement and he finds the secret hallway.
This is my favorite part of the movie because it's so funny. Like we described so much of what happened in the first part
And how terrifying it was.
specifically for this part because he sees everything that we saw. Like he finds the hallway, he finds the room with the blood and the
The
bucket,
camera,
everything.
the mattress.
And we're like, oh shit, he's gonna freak out. He's finding all this stuff. And then another just switch on expectation. He is so excited. He's like, extra square footage.
He literally busts out the tape measure and he's like measuring the rape and torture room, like the kill room. He's basically like scooching the bucket, the
Oh my
camera. He has
god.
no, and it's literally just the same thing from like that they were talking about at the beginning of like a man and a woman might see things differently, or like, and this is exactly one of them. Whereas she sees all this stuff, and rightly so, her danger like alerts pop up in her head. Like, this is sketch. Every man's like very casual about finding a bucket in a bed and a camera. They're all like, "Oh, no big deal." And it's like, I know you guys watch fucked up porn, but like, come on, this should be a fucking red alert to anybody, right? He only gets
Oh,
disturbed by it when he sits on the bed and realizes that it's stained, and he's
yeah.
like, "Oh." But then he finds the stairway to hell, the rest of the fucking cave,
It gets more excited.
more excited, and he's googling like, can you include, does this count towards square footage and shit? And he's measuring with the fucking,
Like each step.
Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, baby. Oh, my God. 9 feet.
he gets literally just so excited with everything that he's not even taking in how disturbing the situation is. He's
Yeah.
just very into the fact that, I mean, who would ever be like, "Oh, I'm going to buy this house that's got like this subterranean
Yeah.
cave"? Fuck that shit. That would make me never want to buy it. You should definitely not include this on the listing, bro.
Oh, so funny. He like his reaction to it. It's
It's
just
just a huge switch that's very, it all works. It's all very funny. And
and
then the
then
fact that
he gets down there.
he finally, like, I mean, he finally gets to like a sketchy area of the room with like a breastfeeding video from the 80s playing on loop.
Yeah, so he's going down the hallway and just like all the other times, he sees light. He goes into the light and it's another bad thing.
Yep, just a room with a creepy ass breastfeeding video from the
Yeah.
80s, and you're like, I'm sorry, what? And then I love it because the tape measure, which is the longest tape measure in the history of the world, I think,
Oh, it's a fat max.
it gets pulled by the creature,
Mhm.
aka Mother, and he starts freaking out. I think he just hears her scream. He doesn't hear or see Mother right away, but he starts running.
Well, there's that great super scary sequence where he trips and then his light is busted. And so then it flickers and you see her in a distance and then she's closer and then she's there and
It's horrifying.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, then he falls into a pit.
And she throws the cage on
Yeah,
top,
then you hear the gate close on it and then you see Tess.
and she just covers his mouth and says, "Shh." And then it cuts again.
Yeah. So Tess is alive.
Yeah. She's been kept in this cage now, and we're like, "Okay, wait, what?"
For like a couple weeks.
Yes, it's like at least been 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah. They say that's one line they say like, yeah, it's been like 2 weeks since the booking.
Yeah.
So yeah, then it cuts.
And then we cut to segment number 3, which we'll call the flashback.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's so bright and colorful. It's the same house, but in the 80s. It reminded me of like Edward Scissorhands.
A little bit.
Kind of had that vibe.
Yeah.
But then the person that comes out of our 476 Barbary house is he's not a good looking dude.
Also, the aspect ratio goes back to that old school look.
Yes. It all feels very old school.
So yeah, he goes to the store and he's getting stuff he says that they're doing like a home birth. His wife needs like they do like diapers and all the stuff.
So yeah, this guy's just like going to the store buying all this creepy baby shit that it's not going to be good just
Yeah.
looking at this guy Richard Brake. I will say he looks like the perfect serial killer. All I know is that he's been in a ton of Rob Zombie movies as a
Yeah.
killer as well, which perfect. But fun fact I learned today was that he played the Night King in season 4 and season 5 of Game of Thrones,
Oh.
specifically the Hard Home episode with the iconic meme. So
Oh.
good for that guy. He's got the
Nice.
right face.
Yeah, so then as he's getting in the car, he throws all the stuff in the car, and then we learn he's watching somebody.
He's watching this young woman, which of course.
And then he follows her and puts on a like electrician uniform and says like knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, there's been outages. I just want to check in and make sure everything's cool." Goes in, unlocks the bathroom window, and then he's like, "Everything's good," and then leaves. And so we all know he's going back there. Then he goes back to the home and he takes all of his equipment into the basement.
and you hear screams coming from the basement. I will say I love that he pulls up and he's wearing the same like the
Yeah.
electrician uniform that has a different name on it. And his neighbor's like, "Hey Frank, how's it going?" And he's like talking to him right up front. And it's like his name is like a totally different name on the fucking like jumpsuit he's wearing. And I'm like, this isn't a red flag for anybody. I thought that was a funny little fact. But he's saying, yeah, we're all leaving the neighborhood basically. And Frank's like, I'm never leaving. And I believe that is, we learn very soon that is very true.
Yeah.
Frank is never leaving this fucking house.
So then it cuts back to
Yes.
Justin Long and Tess.
In the cage, and she's explaining the situation.
And so then we're in part 4, and I don't even the finale.
I would call it the finale because it is like where the convergence of everything
Yeah.
that we've seen separately. But I will say my favorite thing that like when she's explaining, like basically you can't get all worked up. You have to be very calm.
You need to stay calm. You cannot freak out around her, okay? Trust me.
I don't want to be here.
Do you think I want to fucking be here?
It's so good because he's just playing it like exactly like, why is this happening to me? Wah. Like he's just being a total idiot.
And again, Tess being the smart one, she's like the one who knows how to survive.
She's like, just listen to me, dude. And he does not listen to her at all because
Yeah.
she's like, she just wants you to be her baby.
Yeah.
And Mother comes to the cage and drops in what I can only say is a baby bottle from
A
hell.
real disgusting looking baby bottle.
Really upsetting.
Just wants them to like hamster this.
Yeah, so Tess drinks from it and AJ's like, "Oh God, no!" And she's like, "Just drink from it, just do it." And he's like, "No, God, no!" And then he starts like freaking out. Mother drops down, gets all upset, and he starts freaking out. So then Mother drags him off, and we can only assume this is not going to be going well.
She drags him to the breastfeeding
She
room.
drags him to the breastfeeding room, and before we get what happens there, Tess smartly again she takes AJ's flashlight that he left behind, and then she also wiggles her way out of the cage because Mother has left the gate open. And then we get the forced breastfeeding scene with AJ and Mother, which if he would have known that was the alternative, he probably, I mean, who knows? He probably would have still tried to refuse it because he was just being a little bitch.
So do you agree with me? Tess definitely got breastfed. Like in the 2 weeks that she was alive, like she resisted. That happened to her. And she's like, don't resist. You will regret it.
I would believe that, or I would believe that seeing how Mother reacted to Bill Skarsgård was enough for her to just be calm and do whatever Mother said, because I think that's what I would try to do as well. Although Mother is very upsetting to look at, it's not her fault. She is the product of incest from this man from the flashback that we have seen, and he has kidnapped women, tortured, killed them, and inbred with them multiple generations, and this is the final product of that.
So yeah, we learn all that when Tess is able to escape, and then she talks with the vagrant. It's all right. We don't have to go in order. Don't have to cover everything. But the vagrant who she thought was attacking her actually saves her
when she escapes, because she does also thankfully cut the breastfeeding short for AJ by escaping while that's happening, and then actually running into the tape measure.
Yeah,
of course, and then breaks out through the basement window thanks to the vagrant man.
And I think that this is the only spot, like the only exposition in the entire movie is with this man, where like he explains like, yeah, evil things happen in this house,
and she's not the worst. She's not even the thing. You know,
she's not the bad guy. She's
not.
She's a victim of this guy.
Technically, if you think about it, the ultimate villains of this movie are Justin Long and
Frank.
AJ, and then Frank, the OG guy who's a murderer and, incest starter. They both cause ripples and affect people around them by being barbarians, basically.
Yeah.
They are the real barbarians of the movie.
Yeah. And so then, we can jump to Justin Long finding Frank. And this is like an important point, because the vagrant guy says she's not even the worst thing down there. And when I heard that first time watching, I was like, is there another creature? Like, is there another thing?
Who knows? But that place looked pretty deep, is all I'm saying.
At this point, I was expecting Satan to come up. Like, but
yeah.
But yeah, so Justin Long finds this room, and Mother like sees him and backs away. So like mother's not even going in there. And so he goes in and he finds Frank. And Frank has just been living in filth.
And you see all of the different tapes with all the females' names on them, and you're like,
And like they don't even have names. They're like redhead,
yeah. Sorry,
blind
yeah, the
girl.
descriptions,
Yeah.
exactly. So he's even more fucked up that he doesn't know their names.
Yeah.
He has them all in there. He's probably just been watching them over the years. Like, it's just upsetting. And Justin Long at least realizes that this is a bad guy, but it's like, Justin Long, maybe you should look in the mirror because I think this is your future,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
This is you as well. Next generation version
Yeah.
of another. I mean, they're both rapists, so at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So then he tries to help him at
Yeah.
first, and then he realizes that he's fucked, and then
Frank
Frank
has a gun.
has a gun and kills himself.
Yeah, because Justin Long's like, cops are coming, and yeah, I think we can just assume that Frank is like, oh, I'm found, so like, yeah, kills himself. So that Justin Long takes the gun and he goes back out to try and kill Mother. All the while, Tess has come back into. She went and tried to get police's help. Police just see her. And they think that she's a vagrant.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I was kidnapped. Well, do you have ID? It's like, fuck off. This
yeah,
is honestly like the cops in this movie are horrible, but you're like, this is probably accurate.
yeah, she's like, I'm not a meth head. Like,
Yeah.
and so they just bail.
Fuck it.
And so she goes back in to try and save Justin Long, and then Justin Long fucking accidentally shoots her. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's like she's even holding a light too. So it's like obviously she's not Mother. As far as we've seen, Mother does not like the light. Like
yeah,
she only comes out at night. She doesn't look like someone who's ever been in the sun before. Like she lives in the
mhm,
cave. So the fact that he does it, he's just being a fucking idiot yet again.
yeah,
So he shoots her, then they still escape and because Tess on the way in rammed Mother between the car and the
mhm,
the the house, but when they escape Mother is no longer there, even though it looked like maybe she was dying. Of
yeah,
course. So then the homeless guy, the vagrant,
yeah,
they go back to his camp and he gives them the like 2-second history of like, this is a product of multiple
yeah.
generations of incest and all this stuff. And my favorite part of all this is that he's like, we'll take her in the morning. Tess will be fine. We'll take her to get help in the morning because Mother, she doesn't come out, except for at night. And they're like, Tess is like, are you sure we're like safe here? And he's like, oh, in all my years, she's never made it down here. And then she literally like comes through at exactly that moment,
Goes full malignant.
rips his arm off and beats him to death with it. And I was like dying laughing. And right before this, Justin Long has been realizing that maybe he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And he actually sells it that he's like maybe coming around to like realizing that he's the problem and he's a bad guy.
Can't change what I've done. I can just try and fix it. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fix it.
And he's like, admits that he shot Tess on accident, but like he does own up to that. And he says, I'm going to get her help no matter what. And he seems like he's going to make the right decision. And then Mother shows back up and he just fucking books it.
Yeah.
He doesn't even worry about Tess.
Yeah.
He's just like, bye.
So they run up this like water tower and he's not even helping Tess. He's just like, come on. Like,
I know. She's like, wait.
she's like gunshot wound. Like,
And he did it. I
yeah.
mean, come on. So then they get to the top. Mother's coming, and she's like, "Your gun," and he's like, "Oh yeah," and then does what everybody in a horror movie does: is like take it, juggle it,
Fumbles
and it flies off. And it's like, "Oh great!" And then Mother is like getting there, and he's like, "I'm sorry, we're not both gonna make it, but I can make it." And then he like grabs Tess, and he's like, "Here, come get your baby." And he like literally, like, there's no question. He grabs Tess by the hair and throws her off the water tower.
Like
Slides her the fuck off.
Justin Long has this moment of redemption and then
Yes.
just totally regresses.
Turns the other way, right back to who he really is.
And I was so mad when that was like, oh, you asshole.
You had the
Oh
moment.
my
You had a chance.
God.
But I mean, honestly, I will say, as much of an asshole move, like I get it because that breastfeeding was horrifying. I would never want to go anywhere near. I would just throw myself off the water tower, though. Tess can deal with it however she wants, but I would just throw myself off. But my favorite part of the movie happens right after this.
He was right.
He was right. Mother sacrifices herself for a baby and swan dives off
Yeah.
of the fucking water tower, and it's so funny.
It's so funny.
It's so good. She makes it to Tess because she does swan dive and goes like vertical. So she's faster, right?
Yeah.
She's able to get to Tess and she basically falls first so that Tess lands on top of her.
Yeah.
And it does work, honestly. Like, as much as Justin Long was a total dick, like, it did work. However, Tess is probably extremely fucked. Like, there's no way. I'm like, it's surprising that she's even alive when he gets down there.
Well, and yeah, it's so funny, but also like it solidifies that she's not the monster. She's simply a mother. She's just acting on those motherly instincts.
That's all she's been raised to do in her life. That's the only purpose of her life in her mind.
Yeah.
And she's just trying. She might be a disturbing looking creature, but it's not her fault.
Yeah.
It's very sad, honestly.
It is. I mean, it's great character development. It's a hilarious scene, but like it's really good character development for this sympathetic creature now.
Between this and Pearl, I'm loving these like kind of sympathetic villains that we're getting. I mean, granted, like Mother does also kill, but
Yeah.
like it's not her fault.
Well, it's like in one scene, they transfer who the bad guy is from Mother to Justin Long.
Literally, like they just cemented in your mind that it is not Mother. I mean, granted, whatever her plans are, they're not great.
I think it's safe to say she doesn't have plans.
I mean, her only plans are to get you back in that cave
Yeah.
and feed you creepy ass milk for the rest of your days.
Well, that's all that happened to her. That was her entire life.
Exactly. So that's all she knows. It's not her fault.
Yeah.
Like she's not. I mean, it's still again, if I had a
It's fucked
choice
up.
of life, that's a fucked
Yeah.
up life I don't want to live. However, like it's not her fault. So then Justin Long gets down and he's like, "Oh my God, Tess, you're alive!" And he's like,
I fucking panicked. I didn't even let go. You started to slip. There's nothing I could do. You get it, right? Okay. You're gonna be okay. I got you.
"Dude, come on!" Like there's just no
It's
way.
just like he raped that girl, his co-star.
And because like the movie knows that he's the ultimate villain, Mother takes one last stand
So satisfying.
and destroys Justin Long by gouging out his eyes and literally pulling his head into two pieces.
Like a loaf of bread, just rips it in half from the eyeballs.
You know, obviously, Mother must have some superhuman powers at this point, so I'm
Mhm.
okay with her living long enough to destroy Justin Long, but then Tess does shoot Mother to put her out of her misery.
Well, and Mother also like has no understanding of the gun. Like she's not hidingly putting it under, like she's putting it on her face and Mother's just not even reacting to it. Like she doesn't know what it is and she's just like trying to talk to her. And so like it is this like really sad scene of like Tess is like, you're not a monster. What was done to you was monstrous. Like the father's dead. Mother now has no one. Tess isn't gonna volunteer to go back to that. And so
No.
it is very much like I'm gonna put you out of your misery because
Yeah. I'm not sticking around for this. And honestly, Mother is probably almost dead at this point, I would think, unless she's fine. But she seemed like she was pretty fucked up. It's crazy how it all fits in at the end of the movie and it all really like fits with the whole theme of like who's the real barbarian here, right?
yeah.
Like they're all different in their own ways and like they play with your expectations throughout the movie. So I mean, I just think by the end for all of this to come together was a shocking miracle. And I thought it ended perfectly. I loved the ending.
It's so good. At the end of it, I was perplexed by just like everything that I saw. It's just like this was so much. But like now, like having some time to digest it, I'm just like, that was so good.
It's one of those movies that really sits with you, I think, and the more
really-
you think on it.
It's a real overload.
It's pretty nuts, like how different every part is. But when it all comes together at the ending, like I think maybe just the shock of it might just be a lot for people the first time. So
Yeah.
a second viewing, you're like, okay, now I see even more how all this stuff really pairs together perfectly, right?
Well, and it's a movie that also like you have to talk about it.
Yeah, you have to. I've been dying not
If
talking
you just
about it.
sit in your own head with it, like you're not experiencing everything to the fullest. Like there's so much stuff that happens in this movie. You're like, what the fuck? Like
It's one of those, like, it's a very interactive movie in that way, where you're going to be responding and yelling at things, like at the characters. You're going to be like, holy fuck, like talking to people with you. It's like, it's meant to be
Yeah.
that way. It is a very, like, I loved this quote from Zach Kreger that just said, this movie was written with joy. And it's like, as bizarre as this movie is and as like really depraved and fucked up, like some of the subjects are in it, I would say it's one of the most fun and exciting movies I've experienced all year.
Oh yeah. And it's like it's masterfully done. Like the cinematography, the set pieces, like how they use darkness and how they use light, like
Yeah.
all the stuff that happens in the stairwell and in the caves and stuff is genuinely terrifying because like they don't try to light anything up. Like they intentionally keep it dark and have these little sources of light that like draw your attention, but like
Yeah.
you're like it's very like claustrophobic.
Yeah, it is. One of the other things, like with the visuals, that I thought was super cool that Zach Kreger said was like, and after hearing him say this, I'm like, yeah, I can totally see it. Described like how there's a real duality of visuals in the movie and how like everything, it's like a Fincher movie on the top floor and a Raimi movie under the house. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that is 1,000% it. Even the creature design, very Raimi.
Yeah. Practical looking.
And the disturbing, like, it's not, I mean, it is gory in certain ways, but it's not like, I would say, like, the breastfeeding scene is the most disturbing scene, and that's not even gory. It's just like a very Raimi thing to do.
Yeah, there's very limited gore. Like the goriest thing is maybe
The eyes gouging out.
yeah, that and Skarsgård's head getting smashed.
I'd say the eyes, because you see the jelly of the eyes running down his cheeks. That's like pretty gross.
Yeah. Ripping the dude's arm off wasn't really gory. It happened so fast.
The breastfeeding is obviously the grossest, but it, like, again, just a lot of the gore just did feel very Raimi. And then another thing that I thought was interesting was because like the whole place or the whole movie, right, is all about this house at 476 Barbary Street, which I
Mhm.
love. But a fun fact was that year 476 is when the barbarians invaded Rome. So
I heard something about that, and I heard that somebody said that to 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 Kreger, and he was just like, "Yeah, that was not intentional."
yeah, I love that as like a fun detail, but I was like, yeah, he's like, no, I wouldn't know that shit. I was like, cool. But yeah, I just think this entire movie is just what a wild ride. We should have more
Mhm.
of these. I'm excited to see. Zach Kreger said he was writing a horror movie right now that he's like, I'm not sure I'll ever get made. And I'm like, I'm curious what the fuck that is. But I think after Barbarian, the guy's gonna have a good shot.
I mean, if he can top that,
But yeah, I'm really curious now what the fuck he's working on next.
man, what a directorial debut. I'm really loving this trend that we're on with some horror movies this year of like real like this movie was genuinely scary. Like scary movies that also like have fun in the movie. Like when like we just did X last week.
Yes.
And like there's so many fun parts in X,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I love that some of these really great horror movies are incorporating like these tonal shifts
Yes.
within them, and you're like it kind of in my mind a lot of it goes back to like how much we love Malignant, you know, and
Yes.
Malignant and Barbarian are totally different movies, like but they're very similar, and it's just like creators being creators and having a lot of fun doing it. The point of Malignant and Barbarian are very different. Malignant was just James Wan having fun, and Barbarian is like him doing this thing the way he wants to do it.
Still having fun doing it, but also there is a little bit more of like substance to it,
Yeah.
I would say. As much as I love Malignant, this is like Malignant with a little bit of a message, which I
Yeah.
think people responded to really well. They really didn't. I think just wild and crazy works, apparently, if you have a message behind it. I don't know. I still think it's fun to just be fucking weird for no reason. But
Well, and I think the common thing that we're seeing between all these, and let's include Ty West
yes,
in
please.
in Pearl in X, when you let these people who have unbelievable skills and craft, when you let them do their thing, you get great things out of it.
Yeah, I
You
think we can
know,
just stress again for like the fifth time this month is let fucking creative people do their own shit. Don't try to tame them. Don't put them in a box. Don't try to make things cool for the box office. I think after Barbarian, we can safely say people are okay with weird.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
that's not to say that editing is not important, because if you don't have a good combination of editing, then you get the Irishman. You know,
Don't get me fucking
Scorsese going
started.
full Scorsese.
I mean, I love Scorsese. I'm not going to say bad things about him, but I will say I fucking hate The Irishman and I wish that it would die. But anyways, continue.
That's I mean that's all I have to say. I'm glad that we got this movie. I'm glad that it happened before Disney could shut it down.
I think there's to an extent that there's a good thing, and then there's like also I just read that like the new Avatar is gonna be like 3.5 hours, and I'm like,
Oh
why?
god.
What? Stop! Just stop jerking off and calling it a movie. I think that's what James Cameron is doing with Avatar. I don't know anyone who's super pumped about it. No offense.
If it's gonna be 3.5 hours, like, the theaters better install couches, you know.
Can't handle going to the theaters for these long ass movies, Marvel especially. I mean, they make you stick around for not 1, not 2, but sometimes 3 fucking post-credit scenes. I can't hold my bladder that long anymore. Back in the day, I could do it with, like, Lord of the Rings, I had to do it. But, like, I don't have that kind of a bladder anymore. I am over 30. This is not happening. Stop making your if you make a movie that long, put it on streaming, please. That's the
Yes.
only way to watch it.
Or we need movies to do the thing that Hateful Eight did, where they had an intermission. That was
Yes.
the best thing ever.
Okay, I have seen so many people hate on Hateful Eight, and I think we need to do an episode on it because it's my favorite Tarantino movie.
Oh,
I'm going to
H
say, hot take, it's the best. It's incredible. I've never laughed harder at a movie in my life. It is so goddamn funny. I quote it literally every day.
I'm here for Hateful Eight episode. I fucking love it. Maybe we do the extended cut
Yeah, the
on
miniseries version.
Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've watched it 1,000 times. It's like a bedtime movie. I put that on and I just fall asleep like a little baby. Daisy Domergue. I
Oh,
love
man.
that fucking movie. Okay.
So good.
But Barbarian.
I'm definitely watching this at least twice a year for a
Oh,
couple of
yeah.
years.
This is
So
gonna
good.
be, like, in the rotation on the regular. This is a regular exclusive coming at ya.
And I think this movie is gonna age brilliantly.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
I'm also now very concerned about buying a house and renting an Airbnb because I didn't even think about the fact that I could buy a house and a serial killer could still be living in the basement. And now I'm like, this is why I don't ever wanna buy a house.
That's
Never doing it.
that's one thing. That's maybe the one big plot hole. There would definitely be that tunnel would have been found in a simple inspection.
Maybe, but also, like, I don't know.
It's
I
not
don't
like
know. If I found that in inspection, I go, "You know what? I'm not gonna explore this."
not gonna say anything about this.
I think if it's hidden enough, no one will know, and also no one needs to know, but maybe also the killer bribed the inspection people. We don't know how deep this guy's pockets go. He's got his own fucking cave house. Who knows what this guy has set up? He's got contingency
We
plans.
need a Ty West prequel.
Yeah.
Just focused on that guy.
Mother.
Yeah. Who was the first mother?
Ugh, poor woman.
Uh,
Anyways, yeah,
all
great
right.
movie. Go watch Barbarian if you haven't seen it, guys.
Do it.